good afternoon. If you're in the UK, goodness knows what it is where you are otherwise. Welcome to this session on log and data analytics on IBM Z. You will all be on mute during the session, so if you have any questions, please put them in the meeting chat. And please do remember to think about what you're going to put in your feedback as we go along, because we really use that, and it would be good to know if this is a good session, one you'd like to see again, or something similar in November, or maybe also next February. We're not sure yet. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Kekahu, and he can introduce himself and give you a little bit of an intro to the sessions. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you, Anna, for that intro. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're dialing in from, or if you are, attending in person. My name is Kekahu Aluli, and I am the product manager for IBM Z operational log and data analytics. Today, I'll be talking a little bit about how we at IBM are looking to deliver a solution that really helps and enables our clients to accelerate their hybrid incident identification with real-time operational analytics. As Anna mentioned, right, I have the kind of the QR code there at the bottom if you need more information. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, and if you have any questions that are kind of burning throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat, and I guess I can address them as they are brought up to me. I can't personally see the chat right now, but again, I will try my best to elaborate as I go along. So without further ado, let's jump into this, and let's talk about all the cool things that are happening on the Z platform. So the quick agenda for today, I'm going to start talking about, kind of set the stage with some of the business and market challenges. A lot of these things were key in how we at IBM, chose to really look at these challenges as opportunities, right? And understand where we can interject the expertise that we have and really try to focus on, accelerating our clients' journey to AIOps. I'll talk about IBM Z operational log and data analytics, look at some of the key features, take a step back again and look at how this is overall a strategic component in enabling not just a specific slice of AIOps, but really, an across the board wide view of AI operations, specifically on the Z platform. And finally, talk about observability and how this kind of fits into that, that larger discussion and that larger initiative. I know that most clients are, adopting or in some stage and looking at observability. So the first thing here, right, again, is these client challenges, and these are a number of and there are a wide variety of these, and there is no one problem that we're looking to solve. There is no one silver bullet solution that can fix that. But what we've seen with either a number of external clients and doing our own research and talking to different folks, users, right, we've kind of boiled it down to a few buckets of challenges and a few buckets of and areas in which we see struggle with some of our end users. And so kind of the four big ones here are, right, the increasingly complex applications. All right, so gone are the days of being able to develop something that an end user will take advantage of, and it's on a single place, right? These span across hybrid multi-cloud, right, private public cloud, whole different area of domains, right? And let's not forget about kind of the backbone, which is, your mainframe, and the backbone being, that secure platform, which all of these need to interact with. But the complexity really in the last, number of years has increased and skyrocketed. And what this leads to is challenges in tracking, all these different metrics. Unpredictable workloads is kind of the next one, right? Resulting in maybe a higher than expected usage. These can be good or bad, right? An example of a bad unpredictable workload is something that you're not expecting and you're not capable or able to handle. This could be a indication that you are not optimized correctly. A good unpredictable workload still may have negative side effects, right? You think about something like Black Friday, if you're a retailer, these are something that you would expect to have a much larger uptake in usage and is good for the business. But if you can't predict them, you don't know they're coming, and you don't have the particular staffing or hardware or software needs, that can become a real issue and a real pain point. And both of these things in conjunction, we see lead to, kind of the worst case scenario, which is an unplanned outage, right? We know the outages, happen because of scheduled maintenance, things of that nature, but when they're unplanned, they can really start to cause a loss of revenue, client satisfaction, damage to a brand, and oftentimes this brand damage is irreversible. If we think about an airlines, for example, there was a major airlines in the United States that right around our Christmas holiday vacation of this last year, right, they were canceling flights left and right, and there was a whole lot of scrutiny that they had put themselves under, not only with regulators but from clients. And so, you think about how many clients will no longer fly that airlines because of this one incident, right? That is irreversible brand damage, and that's something that is really hard to quantify, but we know that it's tough to make up that. So avoiding that at all costs is really the name of the game. And finally, right, a big challenge, especially pertinent in our mainframe area, are kind of these siloed teams with maybe a lack of mainframe skills where they are necessary, or a few key employees and a few key SMEs who have not had the opportunity to really pass on their mind share to the next generation of mainframers. So how do we deal with that problem? And how do we deal with all of these problems working together? And again, these are really crucial, and these are really beneficial for how we can flip the script and look at them as opportunities, right? How do we use these challenges and flip them, right? And from an end user perspective, make these better. And that's really where the journey to AI ops comes in. So this is a framework that was kind of developed by the IBM folks here, and this is something that we use as a let's say a roadmap or a way to understand where our clients are on their journey to AI ops, and how we can provide not solutions but capabilities and areas to move you along that journey, from kind of this, if we think of a graph, right, the bottom left hand corner would be maybe this reactive or firefighting state of operations, to the top right being this kind of proactive, more intelligent stage of operations. And there's that is no trivial task to get there, but there are lots of steps you can take along the way to better that cause. So what you're seeing on the screen here is kind of the three phases, and that is detect, decide, and act. So with the detect phase of this journey, this is really where we're focusing on identifying issues as soon as possible, using things like machine learning, AI, right, end-to-end application performance to generate these incidents and alerts, to apply for and understand the early detection of potentially anomalous behavior. Anomalies do not always equal a problem, right? But oftentimes there are things we want to look at and investigate more. And that's exactly what's happening in this in this detect phase. So in the detect phase, what we're looking at is identifying, and rapidly isolating the problems. Right? We know there's something of interest. Now we want to dig into the details, do root cause analysis, and out of that, we want a quick way to really decide the correct actions to take. And that is kind of the last piece of the puzzle, act there, right? And act, this is where you need to, you're armed with all the information. And at this phase, you're going to be taking some sort of action, or you're going to be, trying to automate things where possible. So things like runbooks, right? And really reducing the need for manual intervention when you have the confidence that the issue or the problem or the anomaly is something you've seen before, and you have a high enough confidence that an automated act will take care of the problem. Right? This never eliminates the need for human interaction, because we know humans are really good at doing these kind of complex tasks, but we're not really good at doing a lot of these low-level, repeated, mundane tasks. So if we can kind of shift that and deliver something that lets the operators and the SMEs and the sysprogs and all the folks who are actually trained to do a certain task, let them focus on their job. That's really what we're trying to enable here. And so if we take a look at this on, I guess, kind of a linear view, there's different stages, detect, isolate, diagnose, fix, verify. What we're talking about today here is kind of in that detect and decide act is in the decide phase. And this is really focusing on reducing things like the mean time to identify from maybe our traditional reporting view to real time, and the mean time to know from kind of these piles of data to hours, when you have the ability to visualize, correlate, and contextualize your Z mainframe data in the same context as the entire enterprise. And that's really what this is all about, right? Trying to, in this area of focus, really reduce that mean time it would take to isolate and diagnose and have the right ammo to go ahead and act and fix something, or say, this is not a problem. We can deal with this. This is something just to be aware of. So that's what we want to have out of these phases. And that's really where taking a look at IBM Z operational log and data analytics fits into play, right? So there are a number of different things you would need to successfully visualize, identify, correlate, right, and do this powerful analysis. And there's kind of three chunks of value here. The first is data streaming. So you need to be able to access the data, and not just getting a single report at the end of the day, but having, at that point it's too late. Having the ability to do this real-time analytics is key. So being able to access data in near real time on the analytics platform you want, right? That is key. The next thing you need is a number of dashboards and searches, right? You need a way to visualize and understand this in either you're a mainframe SME, you know all these things, or you may not have the specific skills to understand a lot of these mainframe metrics. But if we can, if you can view them in a very consumable, familiar way, that saves a whole lot of time on the front end and really lets your team jump into and understand this data from day one. And finally, right, if you aren't invested in a larger log analytics strategy, you need an actual platform to do this analysis from day one. And oftentimes we see the need for this analysis to be done on platform, right? Not sent off to a distributed team to do it, right? But the ability to have your mainframe shop own this analysis and own this is also a huge benefit. So those are kind of the three main components, and I'll talk about these in more detail. And we'll start at the top with this advanced data streaming component, right? So this is here is really what we're looking at, and getting data in real time is key, right? So in this solution, we have a component called Common Data Provider, and what this allows you to do is collect data once and stream it to one or more analytics targets. So this supports the largest breadth of operational data. So we're talking all SMF data, third-party SMF records like ACF2, top secret, IMS log, RMF3, a number of log variation types. So things like syslog, operlog, right? And in conjunction with all of these different operational data types, is the ability to, in addition, stream records that we don't support from day one. So this is an extensible component, meaning that if there are specific SMF records or other types of records, we have what's called an open streaming API that allows you to configure the collection parameters. You can effectively add additional value from day one without needing to wait for this a formal development release via our team. Included and baked into this is also the ability to do filtering and transformations. And so this is a hugely powerful way to decide how you want and what you want your data to look like. So when we think about, and I'll say this a number of times, but flexibility is really key in this overall story. And so being able to do things like field and record level filtering on your data is a way to optimize and cut a lot of the noise out. So if you think about an SMF record type, right, we all know they can be very voluminous, contain more than 100 fields, but we may only be interested in a handful of these, right? A number of these fields could be things that we aren't interested in, could be a lot of noise. And so how do we reduce that? And by the time you're looking at something, you're not sifting through these mountains of data. So you can really configure and filter out exactly what you're looking for and only stream, let's say the 10, 20, or 30 fields that are actually interesting from that record. And with this methodology and with this thought process, you can really minimize the volume of data being streamed to reduce ingestion costs on the consuming platform or reduce overall processing cost as you're going through this and making this data available. Right. Finally, we have kind of that last column there, which is looking at a more flexible infrastructure with AIOps being the center of that. So we've done a number of things to really enable this ecosystem of AIOps products, and we've worked on a number of deployment strategies that make sense for our clients, and really tried to think about how we can optimize this component. And so at last count, right, 99.79% of our runtime components are eligible to be offloaded to zip processing. And what this does is it saves you, if you choose to, your processing general power, and you can really save, pick and save and choose where you want that processing to happen. I do see there are a few questions in the chat popping up. I can answer them right now because I think these pertain to this slide here. So the first question says, do you support Kix message logs? And the answer is yes. We do support these message logs, and I don't have it here, but if you link back to our documentation, and at the end I can maybe provide when I upload these slides, I can put a link to that where you can see all of the different types. But I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of different types of data that we support. So that is one of them. And if by chance we have something you don't support or are looking for support on, right, that is a very common thing you see with incremental releases of this product, is the addition of new data types. The second question was about syslog, and we definitely support syslog. That is a very common log type that we interject into our dashboards that I'll show you in a little bit. And having the SMF and log data together is really what provides a much more comprehensive view of the health of your system. And that kind of segments quite nicely into the next piece here, which is curated data. And I've kind of started to allude to this concept by saying that we can filter. You have the ability to filter the data as you please, but getting down to what we call curated data is kind of the end goal, or is one of the main values here. So data curation is being able to take raw SMF data and providing a a new record or a new a new data type that only has the important information that is pertinent to what you're looking at, and has all these predefined field filtering and calculations to essentially produce a new key performance indicator, or KPI, right? So the goal is to turn all of this data into something that's of value, and something that reduces the time it takes you to go through and have to do this work on your side, right? So working to get to this curated data, and only in surfacing the important parts of the health is what we're focused on. I mentioned earlier just a briefly that you can do these types of filtering, but there's also a number of, let's say, creative ways you can do this. So we had a partner of ours who were trying to essentially create their own, I guess you would treat it almost as an event out of an SMF record. So they were interested in looking at Kik's 110 records in a Splunk environment, right? But they only wanted to see the 110 records that they had matched, that transaction prefix to one of their key applications, and they only wanted to see them if they were running, if they were a long-running transaction, right? Something that was of interest, so greater than 2 seconds or ended in admin. So they were able to cut down, what they were being sent drastically, right? And so they weren't interested in seeing data that was running smooth, because that is not of value when you're looking for this needle in the haystack. So they essentially were able to create these streaming a regular SMF data like an event, and only get alerted or notified at the time of something, or being able to surface when something was running incomplete. But there are a number of other different types of curation that's done with with this solution, right? So we think about summary records, so kicking out a single DB2 or Kix record every minute versus the sometimes thousands that are actually written per second. So looking at just these interval time windows, pulling out just the important fields which I've mentioned, doing common calculations for variables, right? IO rates, paging rates, CPU utilization. A lot of these are implied in the data, but if you don't have the and again, not the understanding, but if you don't, if you're viewing this from a different lens, it's easy to have a lot of these common KPIs that are across mainframe, distributed across the entire enterprise, pre-calculated for you. And that way, when you're doing customization on these things, it's completed, it's done, and you already have that kind of pre-work done. We also do a number of scenario-based records, right? You can quickly see login things, authorization, USS file access, right? So a lot of these, and you'll see some of these in the dashboard I'm about to show you, right? But again, working to get from this pile of data to something that's of value is what we're focused on here. And that's not to say you couldn't stream all of this data raw. If you have the desire to get everything and visualize everything, you can. But oftentimes we see that is more work than it's worth, when a majority of that is just noise. So trying to slim that down and focus on what's really important. And this is really, the solution is really easy to set up, configure, and enable. So there is a ZOSMF configuration UI that allows you to quickly configure, say, a new policy within a single pane of glass, and really quickly look at the different data types you are on one side that you're configuring. On the right-hand side, you'll see the different consuming subscribers that you're set up, and any sort of work that's done in the middle to reduce or filter or curate this data. So you can, kind of see here on the screen, what you would essentially do is click into one of these categories of data. So anything under the Z Common Data Provider window is all of our raw data. And this list is not exhaustive, because you can click open again and you'd see all of the SMF types, all of the logs type that we support. But you can see here, right? IMS, ZOS, batch, security, network, and the list goes on and on. So there's a lot of data that is available here. Underneath this, if we go back to this first window and we were to open, this bottom box here to see all the different data streams that are available, essentially what you would see is all of the different curated data sets. So the ZOS, network, KICS, database security, these are our kind of high level curated data sets, excuse me. And these are what we use to, fuel our dashboards that I'll show you. So this is kind of a very simple, and I know anyone on the call who has used this product before probably has a much more complex configuration setup. This is just a quick demo setup, but essentially what we've got here is ZOS syslog, SMF30, and SMF110 as kind of our data inputs to being streamed externally to we have a Splunk subscriber on the right side here that is collecting all three of these data types via the HTTP event collector, if you're familiar with Splunk. And again, that's another great way to, if you're a Splunk user, to maximize either the control you would want on the Splunk side by using the HTTP event collector, or streaming, via JSON, which is a much more volume sensitive record, right? Meaning that you don't have to have kind of each record sent doesn't need to have, excuse me, the prefixes there, so you can really save on the amount of data. Upwards in the ballpark of 7 times less ingestion when you stream via JSON versus the HTTP event collector. And finally, here in the bottom, and I'll talk about it towards the end, but this is our Z data analytics platform, and this is our out-of-the-box platform that we ship with our solution. So there's no need to go to another vendor for a platform if you just want to view data. If you're plugging into a larger strategy, you may want to, but a lot of our users don't necessarily need to or want to, for that matter. And that's really, a key value here, again, is having a platform that can run on Z Linux. So you don't need to kind of port it off. The data doesn't need to travel all over the place if just one team is interested in, one sliver of their area of expertise. And so this is really what we get caught up into and get rolled into the dashboards, right? And this is, I think, the really cool piece of the solution, and that is, getting the data somewhere is interesting, and if you have the expertise to build them, that's also a leg up on what you would have to do and have to build kind of this homegrown collection solution. But really having these out-of-the-box dashboards and searches is a phenomenal way to take that and contextualize it and visualize it. And when we think about the earlier slides of being able to reduce the mean time to identify and the mean time to know, right? This is where it's going to happen, and this is where you're going to be able to do that. So we've got a number of out-of-the-box dashboards, and I mean there are probably hundreds of different screens that I could have shown here, and I've picked out a few. And again, I can provide a link at the end in the presentation that has a link to all of the different dashboards that we have. But essentially, we have these kind of deep dive, out-of-the-box drill down dashboards that are based on all of the major domains and subsystems that our mainframe teams are interested in. So you can see on the left here, I have some screenshots from our Z data analytics platform. And on the right here, I have some screenshots from our Splunk application. So if you look closely, you can see we have, I'm showing some KICS, DB2, and ZOS Connect Enterprise Edition dashboards, right? And if you see here again, we have, these are kind of in a drill down manner from a Splunk perspective. So you would pop open the Insights tab on Splunk. You would open up this KICS transaction server. And from there, you'd see all of our dashboards that fall under that. So this can expand one more level. And we have, dashboards for Kix, DB2, IMS, MQ, security, ZOS Connect. And this list is always growing. And we're always enhancing these dashboards based on enhancements that are made by, let's say, for example, the MQ team, right? In one of their most recent releases, they made updates to the 115 record that included a lot of information that was previously only accessible in the SNF 116. The 116 is very voluminous, so a lot of our clients aren't running that, but they've baked that into the 115 record now. And what that allows us to do is kind of tweak our dashboards to make sure we're surfacing any of that important information in future releases. But these are all kind of drill down. So how you think about navigating these dashboards is you kind of start at, say, the enterprise level if you're interested in, and again, this can be persona driven. So if you are someone who is managing, an entire enterprise, right? You might start at that enterprise level, and at the enterprise view, you can see these charts that we have for things like transaction count on the system and region. We have, system CPU, any storage violations, job CPU, and each time you'd click into one of these, these graphs are interactive, so you can click into one, and boom, you kind of drill down into the next level. So now you're in the system dashboard, and from here you can see all the information about the different regions, their transaction counts, again, CPU time, admin codes, right? All these KPIs that are relevant to Kix are found here. And each time you either navigate and jump down deeper and deeper, you can get down to the actual transactions themselves and see the counts, the CPU, right? The elapsed time, dispatch, response, right? All these, and again, I know it's a little small, but all this information is available in graphical format, in charts, and you can dive down into the actual transaction themselves. And this is a really, efficient and fast way to do root cause analysis and to understand and get to the bottom of what you may think is wrong based on that kind of detect phase and knowing that there's something of interest to look at. Another great thing about these dashboards is that, because we ship them on Splunk and Elastic on our own platform, if you have an enterprise-wide strategy with one of these major log analytics solutions, the data behind the dashboards and the dashboards themselves are always customizable. So you can plug these into, and I've seen some incredible, I'll use Splunk, for example, some of these incredible, maybe power users of Splunk from other users of ours who have these, these behemoth dashboards that have everything you'd want to know about anything ever, right, on one screen of glass. But that's everything except mainframe. The mainframe pieces are not serviced there. So they have all of these KPIs and all of these things that are, mapped to their most important applications. And so they can watch and monitor and understand the health of their applications and their systems and infrastructure. But the underlying mainframe component is not there. And so with these dashboards and this curated data, you can feed those into these larger, maybe enterprise-wide views, and no longer is the mainframe kind of this black box, and no longer is, if there's a problem, right, they just say, they just contact the mainframe team and say, hey, something's wrong, we think it's you, fix it, right? If we can surface the different domains there, it'll be a much more effective way of preventing these war room scenarios. And if they can see visually with these KPIs that there is a spike with, with an MQ, then start there, right? And don't bother bringing everyone into the room if that's not necessary. Oftentimes, there's kind of that symptom of a problem, and you may need to do more research and analysis. But from the very first time you think something's wrong, there's no need to pull everyone into the room and have this kind of war room. If you can, and we've heard this a number of times, right? A lot of our mainframe clients feel the need to, and even the users feel the need to, in these scenarios, all they're doing is proving their innocence, and it's not their domain that's causing this issue. If you can do that quicker and easier, there's a whole lot of time saved on the front end and the back end by taking this methodology and becoming more proactive in your approach. So those are kind of the dashboards and the visualization that we provide. So this is just one example. The kicks you see here, we have the same sort of same dashboards, same views, and same way to navigate them for DB2, MQ, IMS, security, right? Storage. We have a number of these, and the list is growing. We also ship a number of searches. So if you think about a search and trying to use, kind of the other side of the log analytics platform, which is doing searching, and being able to have to build all of your different queries, right? So that is a challenge if you're not familiar with what to actually look for. But we have a number of, in this Save Searches tab, we have probably close to 100 predefined searches that we've built with the different domain SMEs. So you can here we see have Kix TS messages. In order to get to all of these specific records themselves, you would have to do some non-trivial searching. And if you're familiar with these query languages, it might not be as big a deal. But if you're not familiar with how to get down to these specific KPIs, it can be challenging. So we ship, like I said, probably close to 100 domain-specific searches that are editable. And so if you want to maybe tweak this and just have XTS messages for a specific region, you can filter that out, right? And if you're only managing a certain area, you can filter that out. But essentially, it's a great point to quickly dive down and drill into your data and really close that loop and begin to think about all of this mainframe data in the same context that the rest of the enterprise does when they do their root cause analysis. It's no longer a siloed approach to how you can do this, and you can start to take a look at and contextualize this data in the same pane of glass as anything else that you're consuming with these platforms. So finally, kind of the last big chunk of value here is the actual log analytics platform itself that we ship. So there was a need for, and still is a need for our mainframe users and clients to have the ability to do this outside of, let's say, Splunk or Elastic, right? Those are great tools for an enterprise-wide view. But if you are, looking to consume this in just the sphere of your mainframe team, oftentimes you don't have the, let's say the permissions or the access to actually run something off platform. So, you need the ability to still do all of the same analysis for your own team, all of the same visualization, but you don't have a place to do it. And that's kind of where the Z data analytics platform comes into play. So this is no different visually from a dashboarding perspective, from a searching perspective, from an interaction perspective than all of the charts I previously showed. But the big value here is that this is shipped with the solution. So, there's no need to go out and acquire additional Splunk licenses, additional Elastic licenses, right? If you want to use this for, a smaller testing approach, you can do that, right? There is also the ability, and this is kind of the big selling point here for this component, and that is that you can do all of this on platform. So this runs on Z Linux. So if there's no need for you to force you or your teams to do this analysis outside of kind of the Z sphere. And what this enables you is more control over your data, and gives your, mainframe teams the ability to participate in this and have the skills and grow the skills in a much more kind of rich and intuitive way, right? I think in the past, a lot of analysis has been done through much more manual processes, while other areas of the business or the company have been able to use these, for lack of a better phrase, these fancy, flashy, cool, good looking dashboards and searches, while these teams have kind of been left in the dust. So this is a way to participate in that same discussion be empowered to learn more about and have kind of, the maybe newer team members use a platform that is more familiar. So this is built on OpenSearch. And if you're not familiar, OpenSearch is kind of the latest open source fork of the Elastic Stack that was done in 2019. And so it looks and feels at this current state very similar to the Elastic Stack. And so, the need to acquire skills and resources on, a platform this large and one that is so heavily community driven is something that is of great value versus having a, just this one niche platform that one company supports. And that's not the case with OpenSearch. And so we think that, moving forward, this is going to be a great value and an additional capability that you folks can look to leverage to, again, provide an extra level of flexibility to how you want to consume this data and how you want to analyze this data. So I have a few more charts here. And, going back to, if you think about the agenda, kind of that, what I wanted to do after diving down into all these capabilities is kind of zoom back out again and think about, how is this and how are the things I talked about today key and strategic in enabling, this kind of shiny AI ops solution that, we're all trying to get towards. Again, moving from this reactive firefighting state to this kind of proactive top right. If you're thinking about a chart, AI ops solution is a challenge. And there's a number of steps along the way. But being able to access data in a flexible manner, in a way that makes sense for your business, in a way that plugs into and leverages existing products is key and is a must. And so this, methodology, solution, product, all the above is really a great way, and it is a key way to enable you to start to actually build on that AI ops strategy. You can see on the left here, the top left here, a number of kind of mainframe specific data source inputs. We also are, and connect with a number of external data sources and products. And, with this capability, right, streaming out to the right side, you see things like Kafka, Humio, our Z data analytics platform, Splunk, Elastic, and, by association, because we support Elastic Stack, we obviously support Logstash, right? And once you're in Logstash, right, there are a number of other plugins you can use to link this even further, right? Sumo Logic, Hadoop, right? And all these different endpoints become attainable, and this kind of ecosystem and strategy start to take place. To take it a step further, and to show where we have gone in the last year and where we're continuing to invest, is also enabling a Kafka or a central data lake architecture as well. So this is an optional deployment method, but having Kafka kind of sit in that middle instead of having it on the left side of this and the right side of the screen, essentially what we're doing is we're able to collect all of this data. We know and we're cognizant that a lot of, let's say, end use platforms and products use similar data inputs. So, things like Z Security Compliance Center, Anomaly Analytics, right? IBM Z Performance Capacity Analytics, right? These products and a number of others often use the same SMF data, the same log data, the same Omegamon data, right? All in different ways, but each of these tools have their own pipeline to get it. And it's really not efficient when you think about, trying to do this at scale. And so if you can put all of these, disparse data types into a single Kafka data lake, that's something that, and Kafka is I think is a really powerful tool in the middle, because it doesn't care who's listening. All it's doing is publishing and making it available, and based on your kind of Kafka configuration, right? Any of these consuming products can listen to and subscribe to these different topics. So, for example, we have some syslog, SM30, 110, right? And the list goes on and on. So being able to subscribe to these topics and use this data once it's published once is, again, a really key way to enable this ecosystem and really enable you to grow the use cases for these different data types and really make our Z operational data a kind of a first-class citizen in this larger ecosystem of what's next, right? Observability. And now that you're familiar with, at least vaguely familiar with a lot of the things I've discussed, right? Observability is where the industry is headed, and how do we, drive and make sure that, again, I think the name of the game here is how do we make our mainframe data part of these discussions? Because we, all of us know how crucial, and we hear all these statements like we're moving away from the mainframe, and this is, we're trying to, shift our focus, and we hear that out loud, but that's really not the case. I mean, all indications show growth in these spaces, and so people are not actually moving away from it, right? What they're looking for is a way to modernize and really piggyback off of a lot of the work that's been done to date. So observability is no different. Essentially trying to deliver, traces, logs, and metrics into a single platform and a single view is what the focus is. And if we think about where this, these capabilities are really looking at are the logs and metrics. Z APM Connect and Observer and Stana on Z are kind of our flagship solutions that provide the tracing, right, to really show the topology and show the flow of application data in that view. But what's missing are the logs and metrics, and this is kind of where our next steps are and where our head is in trying to close that gap and deliver both mainframe specific logs, right, deliver metrics via either SMF or things like the Omegamon data metrics that are hugely curated to date, and using kind of the sum of all of these different components and bringing them together to really shine a light on on all things mainframe, and again really accelerate the your hybrid incident identification, and not just being able to work out of this vacuum or this silo, and showing true end-to-end visibility with mainframe being a part of that discussion. And I think that's really what's going to provide this value, provide this additional benefit, and close that last loop as we start to modernize the platform and give you the ability to do this in a way that fits into your larger strategy. So with that, I quickly touched on the end that we have some additional resources and videos and communities where you can learn more about and interact with all of us and all of our team for technical questions, for understanding demo environments, to look at our entire actual. I just showed the detective side in act, where we have a number of capabilities within each of those different components that work to drive the overall observability strategy. And yeah, so again, if you're interested, please feel free to reach out via any of these channels, and I will publish these slides on the GSA site. And with that, that is all I had for you today. I'm happy to use the last 10 minutes or so for Q&A, and I appreciate all of your time, and I appreciate all of you folks being here today. And I hope this was this was helpful or of some value to you. So yeah, with that, I'll pass it over to Anna, and maybe you can help moderate questions if there are any.
There were no more questions placed in the chat. However, I have now set it so that everybody can unmute themselves. So if they have a general question on this, or a specific question on this, of course, please feel free to ask it. And don't forget your feedback if you have no questions and you're going to go. it would appear that everyone's feeling a little shy today. So please feel free to leave. If you are feeling shy and just want to ask a quiet question, you can wait till everybody else has gone and then you can ask your question. But feel free to leave the session now, and thank you very much for the session, and thank you very much all of you for attending.
Yeah, thank you. Like Anna said, I'll hang on for a little bit in case anyone wants to have a quiet question, as you so eloquently put.
Hello.
Hello, Wendell.
Oh,
You
yeah.
may need to
Okay.
speak up a little bit.
It's working. I'm sorry. Will the slides be made available?
Yes, yeah, I will publish those to the site right after this session. So
All right,
I'll make them available in the next few minutes.
You did a nice start.
If you're a GSE member, after editing, which takes a few weeks, the playbacks will also be available on the GSE site.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And yeah, again, if on these slides, you know, there's information to reach out. So if you have a specific question outside, I feel like I'm an approachable person. Please feel free to any questions or comments. Happy to field them in that forum as well.